We humans, all soft and squishy, aren't really known for our survival prospects. It's so bad that a human could fall and just die. Sometimes, you don't even have to fall. Yet, some of us have survived some insane things and lived to tell the story. So today, we're gonna look at 5, 6, or 7 of the wildest survival stories on the internet. But before we start, I'd like to ask you to hit that like button, subscribe to the Polymath and enjoy the video. The first entry on my list is Roy Sullivan, aka the Human Lightning Rod. Roy Sullivan was the world record owner for the most lightning strikes survived in a lifetime, with a staggering count of 7. In a span of 35 years, Roy was hit by lightning 7 times, that averages out to a strike every 5 years. Amazingly, Roy wasn't severely hurt in any of the strikes, but the pain was real and described by Roy as being cooked inside your skin. Roy may have been the center of attraction from lightning, but he wasn't for people, as he stated, "Naturally, people avoid me. I can't blame them. Who wants to be near somebody that's all the time getting hit by lightning?" Roy sadly took his own life in 1983, supposedly due to unreciprocated love. While Roy had a lightning problem, our next entry, Ron Hunt, had an issue with a drill. In 2003, Ron Hunt was a construction worker working in Truckee, CA. On a standard day, while he was doing his thing, Ron's ladder suddenly gave way, sending Hunt and the drill he was holding down to the ground. Being a trained professional, he attempted to throw the drill as far away as possible. Unfortunately, he failed and his head clashed with the industrial tool. The 18-inch long, 1.5-inch thick drill went right through his eye and out the right side of his skull. Fortunately, by some strange act of God, the drill bit didn't go through his brain tissue, but rather pushed it aside and went out his skull. His brain was saved, but his eye was gone. Surgeons took out the drill by unscrewing it from his eye. Ron had a drill go through his skull, but this guy, Truman Duncan, was cut in half. So in 2006, Truman went through a horrible ordeal when he fell from a moving train in Cleburne, TX. Truman worked at the rail yards, so while he was riding a train, moving to repair a dock, he slipped. He tried to throw himself backward, but, unfortunately, he was caught. The train went right through him, destroying much of his middle and lower body. By another strange act of God, Truman remained conscious after being crushed by the train, and was even able to call for help using his own phone. It took medical professionals 23 operations over a period of 4 months, just to save his life. He lost his left leg, most of his right leg, a kidney, and his entire pelvis. Yet he survived and even went back to work. Similar to Truman, our next entry also cut something off by accident, but for Fourthman Murph, it was his head. Truman had always been a happy-go-lucky lumberjack, so at the age of 74, it came as no surprise that he still wielded his trusty old chainsaw. In 1984, however, he had an accident that was almost impossible to survive, yet he did. So while he was out sawing stuff up, a branch fell and knocked him out, throwing him into a ditch, the result of which broke his leg. When he regained consciousness, he found his still active chainsaw cutting through his neck. Blessed with maximum composure, he removed the chainsaw, stood up, positioned his head such that blood wasn't running down his windpipe, drove himself half a mile to his neighbor's house, and they went to the hospital 17 miles away. Upon arrival, doctors found he had sawn through his windpipe, esophagus, and jugular veins, leaving just the spine and some skin holding his head in place. Several surgeries later, Happy-Go Murphy recovered and went on to live for another 18 years. The last entry shares similarities with Ron Hunt. So in the 1800s, a railway worker named Phineas Gage was tasked with clearing rocks away so the rack could be laid properly. This usually involved using an iron rod to insert explosives into the rocks before lighting a fuse to explode the gunpowder. On September 13, 1848, shit hit the fan, and the explosion occurred earlier than expected, firing the iron rod straight through Gage's head, but unlike Ron Hunt's story, it went through his brain. As with the other entries, God did Gage a solid and he survived and transported himself to the hospital. There, doctors were able to patch up the wounds and keep him alive. The only lasting damage affected his personality, character, and similar to Ron Hunt, his eye. His personality was affected because the rod had damaged certain parts of his brain that made him less reliable and diminished his inhibitions, making him a lot like this Phineas. And there we have it, viewers, 5 times where people survived where you and I would have most likely died. If you watched this far and enjoyed the video, then do the channel a solid by leaving a like, subscribing, and dropping a comment. Maybe even add a suggestion for a future video. Goodbye and thanks for watching.